what's good, everybody? Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday earnings day. We've got 100 companies reporting earnings today. We've actually got companies reporting as we're talking here. Gilead Sciences down 4% after earnings, and Cray, I actually don't know what that is, reporting earnings, but nobody cares. Everybody's focused on Apple, and that's the only real earnings that are going to matter. And they'll probably, normally they don't release right away. It'll be about 4:30 before that comes out, New York time. So we won't be around for that, but we'll certainly keep an eye on things. Let's talk about this here. We've got oh, you need to see the charts there. Let's go over to that and take a look at the Dow. The Dow finished the day lower by 84, was down about 300, which, notice perfectly, puts you at the lows. We've been talking about this sort of range of how the S&P and the Dow have been moving in between this little range, and really the next level of excitement is going to come when we break above or below this range here. You can see today when we sold off into that range, the technical traders, the people that love using charts, they saw that as an opportunity to buy in for a short-term, what we call a scalp, meaning just a short-term trade to the upside. Our range is getting tighter and tighter, so follow this. If you're watching along on the Dow, follow along closely, because as soon as we go above or below, that's where the real excitement's going to happen. Hopefully we go above, but we'll be around. We'll check it out. On the S&P 500, we've got the same exact thing there. Hey, Mark, how's it going? There we go. So we've got the same thing on the S&P 500 where we fell into that support area, or the area that technical traders like to use for that support. This is now the multiple, going back 3 times now that this has happened. So people are noticing this trend, right? They're noticing this pinch, whatever you want to call it, however you want to word it, whatever technical term you want to use. Everyone is looking at the exact same thing in the market, at least in the short term. Now, this won't affect any long-term investments. This is just a day-by-day view of what's happening to get a grasp of sort of the overall stock market. Doesn't change long-term. What it does is tells you there's really nothing to do until we break above or below. We fell down into that today, and it looks like we found a little bit of support. That could all change in about 20 minutes, so we'll see what happens there. So the S&P actually closed the day up 5 on the day. Was lower to start the day. The Dow was actually down about 300. I don't know if I said that yet or not. And then if we go over to the Nasdaq, there you go. Very sloppy. The Nasdaq, very sloppy. That will be settled today as well, with the likes of Apple and Snapchat reporting their earnings. Apple, of course, being the big focus. Nasdaq was up 63. To the upside there. So not a bad day. We're starting the first day in May sort of split. The, what do they say? Sell in May and go away. That's the old saying that people use. Why is my chair lower here? There we go. Sell in May and go away is typically what people refer to as being sort of a rough month for the markets. It is sort of the start of the summertime season, or at least the beginning of it. So you typically see that sort of pullback. And then a little calm into the summertime. We'll see. So we'll see what happens. We'll be ready for that. Earnings, we're back up to 79.4% of the companies that have reported earnings so far have beat expectations. Still a very, very good earnings season. Of course, you know, this week, 100 names reporting. Nobody cares at all. They care about Apple, which will come out. I just said that will come out in a little bit. One thing to note, the Fed has started their 2-day meeting. This typically, when the Fed starts their 2-day meeting, it typically pushes the markets higher into it. Very typical for the markets to be higher going into the first day of the Fed meeting. Really, this is not where we talk about interest rates or we find out that the Fed's going to raise rates more or less. This is where we're looking for clues on inflation. What's the Fed think about inflation? What's their opinion? Has it changed at all? And then what's their opinions? What are they talking about as far as the overall economy goes? So that's the kind of news you'll see coming out about this Fed meeting, not the interest rates. Okay, so if you see that on TV, you know, no, not to be too concerned there. Pfizer was your leader on the downside for the Dow today. I didn't notice really anything there. Metals and mining also fell. Very interesting here because the metals and mining companies falling back into the 200-day moving average. That also includes some light commodities. Whoa, earnings are just coming through left and right there. Let's talk about Apple, because we got some time until that comes out. The stock was actually higher by 2.3% today. Now, what's interesting is, remember, the chip makers, the people that make the little doodads and widgets inside of those phones, those were the people that were saying, hey, look, we're not making as many of these for the iPhones. We're betting that iPhone sales are going to be slower. Well, today with Apple headed higher, you had everybody say, well, maybe it's not such a big deal. I can't type today. Maybe everything's good. So Intel was up 3% today. SWKS, there we go. Skyworks up 5% on the day. A lot of these chip makers, even though they're not directly correlated to Apple, had really good days. So with that in mind, if you look at the semiconductors, which we know we need to have the stock market higher, that had a pretty good day, 1.6% up on the day. The banks still do not want to participate. I don't know what their deal is there. I'm feeling a little bit weak on these banks. The 200-day moving average will be a big moment. However, a close below. Technical traders don't care if it touches the 200-day moving average. Technical traders and all the algorithms that trade based on charts and technicals, they want to see the market close below the 200-day moving average, which is this red line that you see on the charts. If that happens, that's where this could be a little bit of a problem for the banks. I'm not too optimistic about it, so we'll see. Let's go back to Apple real quick. This is all anybody's really focused on. The shares were higher on the day. Analysts all over, companies, gurus, strategists, everybody was throwing out their last-ditch efforts, their final blog posts, their final upgrades to try to get the stock higher before earnings. Not a good sign, by the way. I mean, I don't know what the earnings are going to be, but that's typically not a good sign. Investors are going to focus specifically on the iPhone sales. Now, the company's expected, or the analysts will expect the company to report 53 million iPhone sales through March. That happens, that'd be an increase of about 4.5%. However, remember, they've lowered that number. That number was higher just a few weeks ago. They lowered the number, so this is a downward revised estimate, which means if they beat this, is that bullish or bearish, right? It's good because they beat the estimates, but we lowered the estimates after we found out things might not be so good. So it's going to be a really interesting earnings release. Revenue is expected at $60.84 billion with a net profit of $13.68. That number also revised. Earnings per share of $2.68, also downward revised. I got this from Reuters today. They published the latest numbers. So it's another one of those things. If they beat these estimates, then it's kind of like, oh, there was nothing to be worried about. Everything was fine. If they don't meet these new downward revised estimates, it could be catastrophic. So it makes for some good TV. I don't know. If you just want to follow along or watch the charts, see what happens, it's just kind of cool to watch. I mean, it doesn't really change anything I do, but very, very interesting. Boeing was lower today. The company, they said they're going to buy a plane parts and supply company. They're doing this because they're trying to speed up their delivery time. Most of their planes sold out, right? For years and years and years now, going forward, they are sold out. They can't keep up with the demand. So they're trying to buy these little supply companies to hopefully speed up that supply chain, get some of these planes out a little bit faster. The stock was a little bit lower, as is typical when a company reports that they're buying another company. I should also point out Snapchat. Has Snapchat came out? Nope, nothing on Snapchat's trying to be cool and wait till a little bit closer to when Apple posts their earnings as well. Snapchat's, I don't expect much from Snapchat. These guys, didn't I put a little something down about Snapchat? Snapchat expected to report a loss of 33 cents. So really the focus here, not so much on how much they lose, they suck, right? Snapchat doesn't make any money. It's really a joke of a platform. But anyways, it's fun to use, but it's a joke of a platform. The analysts, investors, everyone that's heavily invested in this, they're going to look for what the news is on the new spectacles. They're coming out with those spectacles again. And I don't know if you remember this, but when they came out with them last time, they had to write down $40 million in inventory that they couldn't get rid of. And I asked them, I called, I emailed, I went nuts on their social media, their other social media, to try to get these spectacles. They wouldn't even get them out to us. I was willing to pay for them. Nothing, couldn't get them. So they had to write off $40 million. They're going to try it again. Don't know why they think they can do it better. There's a company called Magic Leap in Florida here. They're going to crush everybody in the sort of VR, eyeglass, whatever, camera ready, whatever. Apple doesn't stand a chance. They might as well just buy Magic Leap. Snapchat doesn't stand a chance. Magic Leap, when they finally do push this thing out, check them out. Really, really cool. Incredible, actually, what they can do. Okay, a lot of a lot of smaller companies reporting earnings here that are coming through. I'm pretty much done with everything. Shutterfly came out with earnings up about 3%. If you follow that sort of thing. Mondelez, where's Mondelez? Up 2.5%. Nothing crazy. And that's pretty much it. Some smaller companies reporting all seem to be doing good. They're all up after the close. CRAY after earnings. BGFV, I have no idea what that is. Big Five Sporting Goods. Never heard of them before. Tex, QUOT, ARRS, all up after earnings. So this is just going to help boost the number of companies in the S&P that are reporting better than expected. But it doesn't matter because Apple's probably halted right now, waiting for earnings. No, it's not halted yet. 169. It's just sitting flat. Everybody's waiting for Apple. That's it. I'm not going to bore you. I don't want you to miss a good earnings announcement there. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Dustin at Jazz Wealth. Otherwise, chat with Jazz. Actually, a little bit better there if you post your question there. Or if you just want to chat, that's cool too. That's all I got. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy it. We'll talk to you soon.